You're probably thinking, my IT nerd friends said this is a podcast about Android, but we're quoting a Ryan Reynolds film. Well, we may be a podcast, but Android Police isn't just about Android.
It's Monday, November 25th. Welcome. I'm Corbin Davenport alongside Cody Toombs. Before we get to that, you should really subscribe to us on Twitch. I'm sure you've all heard the spiel many times, so I won't go over it all. But if you like this show and you want to help support us, you can subscribe to us at twitch.tv/AndroidPolice. When you subscribe, you get an emoji in the chat. You get the warm, fuzzy feeling that comes from supporting the people you like to listen to. And you get extra entry methods and all the giveaways that we do. And we do so many giveaways now. It's like you should just do it for that alone. Honestly, it's worth it. You can subscribe to us at twitch.tv/AndroidPolice. And if you go to androidpolice.com and hit the donate button, you can also give money through other methods like PayPal and Bitcoin and whatever other cryptocurrency I guess is popular these days. I can't keep track anymore. But what I can keep track of is how many Chromebooks are being sold that aren't getting updates anymore. Did you like that transition, Cody?
It was a transition.
It was.
Yeah, this. So, well, why don't you explain the whole detail? Because you just wrote an incredible post on this.
It is very incredible. It's like 400 words. So one of the
it has a chart.
It does have charts. That means it's better. So one of the sticking points with Chromebooks, basically since the first one, has been that Chromebooks have they don't have indefinite support cycles. So they're not like PCs where you can, in most cases, just throw the latest version of Windows 10 on there and you're fine. Chromebooks have updates tied to their hardware, and once the hardware that the Chromebook is based on is not supported, the Chromebook doesn't get updates anymore. Usually Chromebooks get updates for a few years after they're released. It's like 5 to 7 about roughly. So the reason we're kind of bringing this up again as a sort of PSA is because Black Friday is coming up. Obviously, if unless you've been under a rock, you've probably seen us post like 100 deal posts already. And this has been a problem for a long time, but I feel like it needs to be pointed out as we get to this phase of the year. You really have to check when updates expire on any Chromebooks you're looking at, because there are a lot of sites posting deals on Chromebooks, especially refurbished models, about Chromebooks that are several years old at this point, which obviously means that they're farther into their support cycle than if you bought something new most of the time. And in a lot of cases, places are actually selling Chromebooks that have already ended their support cycle. So you're buying them and there will never be another update, and they probably haven't got updates for months. And when the entire operating system is a browser, that's maybe not, because we've written about this a couple times, and kind of one of the remarks that keeps coming up is I don't really care. I just use it as a basic machine for YouTube or email or whatever. But now that Chrome is the dominant web browser and other web browsers are based on it, hackers are targeting vulnerabilities in Chrome much more heavily. I know just this year there's been 2 major security flaws that have been patched while they were being used in the wild in Chrome. So security vulnerabilities are found in Chrome pretty often. Granted, they're patched almost immediately, but if your Chromebook isn't getting updates, you don't get those fixes. And with each major flaw that's discovered after the end of life date, then you just become more and more susceptible to people stealing your data.
Yeah, it's a rough situation because understandably a lot of the hardware going into Chromebooks is it's produced in basically the same sort of mindset as phone hardware, where a company like Qualcomm is basically going to put out a thing, only support it for so long, and that's basically the end of the story. Uh, but that being said, realistically, these are devices that people are going to be using for a very long time, especially since so many of them are kind of purchased as throwaway devices. Which I know sounds counterintuitive, but the funny thing is throwaway devices or throwaway products in general tend to be the ones that we just never feel like upgrading until they truly are broken. And, if you really are just watching YouTube on it, you seriously could just keep this thing around for 15 years.
Yeah, like again, like if you're, but also the problem is that Chromebooks are usually synced with your Google account, which is a nice treasure trove. The next time a remote code execution fault is found in Chrome OS. But yeah, I'm not gonna spend forever arguing that Chromebooks should have extended support cycles because I already wrote a post about that a few months ago. And actually, Google recently extended a lot of Chromebooks to like another year or two of support. So I feel like I contributed to that. So I'm gonna pat myself on the back for writing that. But this is just kind of a general PSA. Like, please, if you're buying a Chromebook, please check how many years more of support it has left, or maybe it's done. Maybe there's like I linked to I didn't link to a couple of Chromebooks in the post because I don't want people to buy them, but I had screenshots of sites that were selling Chromebooks that like a few of them updates ended last year and you can still buy them. So please don't do that. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's really been an issue where certain sites are posting a lot of this stuff, and it's already really
Yeah.
standing out as like the obvious problem.
Yeah,
So
and most of the time it's like smaller third party sellers on like eBay and Rakuten and Newegg and those kinds of sites. So like you're not going to go to like Samsung.com and buy a Chromebook and updates ended for it 3 years ago. It's more third party sellers.
yeah, but that being said, even Amazon is really, really actively selling a bunch of these because third-party sellers can
Yeah,
go on and create their own listings or technically keep listings up. But yeah,
yeah,
it's something
and
to be very watchful for. You really need to vet all of your purchases, especially with Black Friday deals coming in like gangbusters. Uh, Speaking of which,
real quick before we move on, I'm sorry, I don't think I actually mentioned the page where you can check what the
mm,
how long each Chromebook has left to live, so to speak. We'll have that in the uh, show description and the Twitch chat and everything. But you can also Google it. It's just a Google help support page called Auto Update Policy. It's really easy to find. And again, we'll have links to it all in the show notes. But yeah, just please check it because especially if you're, trying to be nice and buy maybe like a holiday present for someone, like you don't want to give someone a computer that stopped getting updates 6 months ago. That's mean.
uh, mean though you never know when possibly intentional. But regardless,
Yeah, someone you hate. Yeah.
here, I don't like you. Take my gift.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow, a new Chromebook. That's amazing. Oh, it
which
hasn't been patched for Spectre yet.
yeah. But on that note, it is worth a quick mention for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the whole weekend at large. We're going to be running a like huge roundup page. We're going to be putting tons of deals on there. Pretty much everything on there has been vetted both for something you should consider buying. Obviously, we're not including Chromebook deals that are expired. And, we're doing our best. If anything slips through, we apologize, but we're trying pretty hard to keep that out. And we're actually going to be paying very close attention to actual deals as opposed to like inflated prices. Because we've all gone into stores or seen websites where the price is set, like 2-3 weeks ahead. The price is already here. And then all of a sudden the price inflates back like $20 more expensive. And for Black Friday, they drop the price $20. It's the typical gimmick
Yeah.
that we see all the time. Anyway, we're watching for all that stuff, so hopefully our deal hub will be kind of the place to go.
And again, sorry, before we move on really quick, that we usually save questions for the end, but I do want to hit on this. Someone in the Twitch chat asked, doesn't Chrome on the Chromebook still continue to be updated? No, it does not. Chrome OS and Chrome OS, I'm sorry, Chrome and Chrome OS are tied together. So once a Chromebook it reaches its end of support, that's it. No more Chrome updates, no feature updates, no security, nothing. It stays where it is, and that includes the Android version that it uses to run Android apps. So
Yeah, which it to me it is still mind-boggling that the only OS where Chrome does not continue to update is Chrome OS itself.
yeah, like you could I mean, Chrome still runs on Windows 7. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe not a good idea for an operating system, but that's another tangent. I'm not going to that right now. Instead, we're going to make fun of Google for a different reason.
And a pretty justified reason, I think. So, uh so for those who don't know, and if you have been watching all the deal posts popping up, the Pixel 4 is going to be taking a not a price drop, but a pretty heavy Black Friday discount. Uh, this is going to include a few different targets. Target in particular is going to be dropping that by what is it, $300? Or technically, it's not a price drop. Again, this is this is money back you get from purchasing a Pixel 4 from Target. Google
Yeah, like
Fi,
the discount comes in the form of service credits after you buy it. So it's like it's not really it's kind of a discount, but it takes a while for it to come in.
exactly. Google Fi is going to be going really hardcore with this by offering 50% back on the price of the Pixel in Google Fi credit, which is pretty insane.
That's a
And
cut.
there are going to be others. I think across the board, $200 is the minimum for Black Friday, like either cashback or deals, discounts, whichever. And I have a feeling we may not have even heard the biggest of. Well, I think the 50% back is probably the biggest so far, but I
Yeah.
think in general, we're probably going to hear a few more of these as we get closer to Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So, as
Yeah,
a Pixel 4 owner, I must admit, little salty.
just a little bit. You haven't learned your lesson, Cody. We see this happens every year, Google releases the Pixel, and then 2 months later, it's $400-$500 off.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I already knew this was going to happen.
Yeah,
I didn't think it would be quite as extreme as
yeah.
50% back, but
In your defense, they've never cut it this far. Like I think the Pixel 2 they did $100 off like a month later, and that's what set a lot of people off. And then the same thing happened with the Pixel 3, and this year I think they ramped it up a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, it's more extreme than I would have expected. And it comes as obviously this is just a timing like coincidence, but it comes just the news of it comes the same day as the Google Fi credit, the $100 credit for pre-ordering on Fi came in the email. So, it's that wonderful timing of like, oh hey, by the way, here's that little bit of that you got for ordering way too early.
Mhm.
Uh but here's what everyone else gets. Yeah, it is kind of funny because Google is setting itself up as sort of telling people please stop buying in advance. Don't buy our phone until a month later.
Yeah, and this is the same thing that LG does, and the same thing that Samsung does. So I guess in like a weird way, you could point to this to say, yeah, Google's acting like a real phone company now. They're starting their phones off way too expensive and then making them slightly better 2 months later, once they've collected the early adopters tax.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
which
it is pretty silly.
I mean, some of us in the blogging world are we're paying it because it's part of the job, unfortunately. But at this point, regular people, I would never suggest any average person who doesn't need the phone immediately should buy it until Black Friday, because with discounts like this, it's just such a wide-reaching message to never ever trust those initial prices.
Yeah,
And
and it also gives you time for Google to work out the early software bugs.
well, also hardware bugs. I know it hasn't been much of a problem lately, but a number of Nexus phones for sure, and I think one of the Pixel phones, I want to say the Pixel 2, maybe it was only one size of the Pixel 2, uh, actually did ship with some out of factory like manufacturing defects. So,
Yeah, I
you actually
remember.
have better odds of not experiencing those if you know, if you buy a
Yeah,
little later.
I remember that happened with the Nexus 5. I think there was something with the speaker, maybe.
There's
I
been something with
wanted.
this, or probably the microphone. Because there's
Yeah,
been problems
that
with the
might have been it.
microphones in, like, half of the phones that Google has shipped.
Yeah, still working on that. Yeah. So lots of Pixel discounts. Unfortunately, we don't have any discounts on our Twitch subs, but you still should give us some anyway if you like this show. And again, you can subscribe to us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Android Police. Gets you lots of fun bonuses like extra entry methods in our giveaways and fun emojis. And yeah, I already said the thing earlier, so I'm not going to make everyone sit through that again.
Short version,
So
help us out.
yeah,
Feed us.
please give money. That's the short version. Anyway, I don't really have a good transition to this, but I wrote a fun thing this morning. Actually, I wrote it over the course of the weekend, and it went live this morning, about Android 10's missing features. So, Android 10, I think, was probably the most interesting release from a news standpoint, because I think there were definitely more betas for Android 10 than any previous release, and there on top of that there were sort of leaked APKs and builds that came out between them or before the official beta process began. So there was a lot of stuff that showed up in betas and then vanished in the wind at some point, or stuff that was promised and never showed up at all, or some stuff that looked like it might have been coming to Android 10 but just ended up being a Pixel 4 feature for some reason. Um, and I wanted to quickly talk about some of these because a lot of these I'd actually forgotten about too, and now I'm annoyed they're not in Android 10, especially because I'm probably not getting a Pixel, so I'm not getting all the Pixel 4 features. Um, so the first one that just completely vanished was the screen recorder, and I know probably not a lot of people super care about this. I care about it obviously because I write about Android, so it helps to have a nice screen recorder that isn't like a third party app, especially one that could record system audio, which no screen recorder has been able to do on Android for at least a few years. I can't remember if it was previously possible.
I know there were ways with root apps. I don't
Yeah, you can do it with root.
Yeah, I don't believe it
But
was ever technically part of the API, though.
yeah, so there was a screen recorder in early Android 10 betas, and it didn't really work at all, but it showed Google was kind of working on one, which was exciting in itself. But it was part of the flags toggles in the settings app, and the final version of Android 10 doesn't have those flags visible anymore, which means there's no way to enable the screen recorder because the screen recorder was never taken out of the flags. So maybe we'll see this in Android 11. I really hope so because I'm really tired of waiting for it. Um, Another one, this isn't technically Android 10, but it happened like while Android 10 was in beta, and it's related sort of. So I included it anyway, not just because I already written 2 paragraphs before I realized it wasn't part of Android 10. That's not the reason at all. So another thing that showed up was fast share. So Android 10 removed something called Android Beam, which was the thing where you could tap your phone to another phone to transfer like URLs and contacts and that sort of thing. It was not suited for file sharing at all because NFC is just the slowest possible protocol for sending data. So there was evidence a couple months ago that Google was adding something like Apple AirDrop to Google Play services, but it hasn't been released yet. Now, some of the folks at XDA have shown that it's still in development and they're still working on it, so it will probably still come at some point. But it's part of Play services, so maybe fingers crossed it'll come to older versions, possibly.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's definitely something that we could use because like sharing around, sharing photos and things like that. Especially if you're using any like anything high res, that's going to be so valuable. And also between phones and Chromebooks, hopefully Fast Share actually becomes functional on Chromebooks because then you could you could legitimately use them for things at that point.
Yeah, I'd love it if maybe they could extend this to. I know Google's allergic to making desktop software, but having like like a Windows or Linux companion for Fast Share or like a web portal or something would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I
And
was
this is
just thinking that I want to be able to move stuff between my phone and my Mac and Windows laptops both
yeah,
just without having to connect them.
yeah. But knowing Google, they'll build it into that terrible piece of crap software that is the Google Drive client. Um, so a couple other smaller things. One thing was rules, which is kind of weird because it seems like it rolled out to some people, but I don't think it's fully widespread yet. It's sort of like this really basic Tasker clone where you could set things to happen, like when you went to a Wi-Fi network or a location or something. Um, Again, it hasn't been rolled out widely as far as I know. Um, Also, a couple things that never showed up at all. This is another thing that is really bizarre. There's no automatic dark mode in Android 10, even though a lot of OEMs already have this in their skin. Like Samsung has dark theme on their flavor of Android 9 Pie, and they have an automatic mode. So the fact that like a year later, Google still couldn't get the toggle working is strange, and it's even stranger because there's an ADB command you can use to enable automatic dark mode. So like it would like switch to dark mode at a certain time or like at sunset, and then switch back to light mode in the morning. There's a toggle for that. Then there's even an app that can be used to like manipulate the toggle on the phone, so you don't have to like leave it plugged into a computer all the time. But it's weird. I don't know why they didn't put that switch in. Um, and a couple of the things that showed up in Android 10 betas and then eventually became Pixel 4 exclusives, or sort of anyway. One of them was gestures with third-party launchers. So one of the big controversies as Android 10 neared release was that you couldn't use the new gesture system with third-party launchers, and they kind of made it worse by like the text kind of said like this launcher doesn't support gestures, which kind of made it sound like, oh, I should give the app 1-star reviews on the Play Store because it's doing something wrong here, not the OS. So that rubbed a couple people the wrong way. I know some of the launcher devs got upset about that. Google said it would patch it after the final Android 10 release, which is like, oh, okay. And it did eventually do that. When the Pixel 4 shipped, it did ship with the ability to use custom gestures with the third-party launchers. But I think the patch is still missing on other Pixel phones. Like I tried it on my Pixel 3a with the latest security patch. It can't do it. And depending on when phone companies merged their changes when they were updating their phones to Android 10, other phones might not have it either. Also, the system theme picker that kind of showed up in one of the early Android 10 betas, that's a Pixel 4 exclusive. The live caption feature, where it could display captions for anything happening on the screen. So, Instagram videos, Snapchats, videos in a web browser, whatever. They show that off at Google I/O. I don't remember them saying anything at the time that it would have been like a Pixel exclusive, but it ended up being a Pixel 4 exclusive, even though
I
it
think we
should.
did theorize it might be.
Okay. But yeah, and they said it should come to the Pixel 3 and 3A before the end of this year. But still a little bum there. And also something very small. There was supposed to be a swipe down. So like a lot of launchers have this where when you swipe down just anywhere on the screen, it brings down the notification tray, so you don't have to like move your finger all the way up to the top of the screen because phones have really tall screens now and it's very inconvenient. Uh, and that ended up being Pixel 4 exclusive. I don't know why. I feel like that'd be really easy to bring to other phones, but whatever. So
Well,
yeah.
no one should be running the Pixel launcher besides Pixels, though. So,
Well, I mean, like at
in
least
theory,
other Pixels. Like it's not on
yeah.
my 3A. That seems kind of
I
silly.
wouldn't be surprised if that just is something that'll eventually make its way to everywhere.
Yeah, once they bring the code bases together. But yeah, so that's some of the things that we saw in the early Android 10 builds that never materialized. So
Well, as any Apple user would recognize, this is just the list of things that they held back for next version. You got to have
yeah,
some way to convince people to upgrade again.
yeah, and dark mode was this year. You know, maybe next year will be the screen recorder. That that's what I'll be most excited for. Um,
Yeah, seeing as we actually do this stuff all the time, the screen recorder is by far our biggest. Please bring it to us. Though I think fast share is also like right up there. Those two would be
yeah,
my top picks.
fast share would be nice. Actually, I hope that scope storage becomes a requirement on Android 10, just so I can see everyone complain about that all over again, because that was a lot of fun. There were a lot of very mad people about scope storage.
There still are.
They still are. I haven't brought it up. When you say scope storage, like 10 people from the Android subreddit come knocking on your door.
That is kind of how it goes. But
Yeah,
to be fair, it is a possibly very annoying thing, depending on how you use your phone.
yeah. I'm
But
not looking forward to all the Androids becoming iOS comments that will inevitably happen when we post about that.
well, see, you think scope storage is going to be the problem, but give it a little time because anyone who's been watching Android updates closely enough has noticed that a huge percentage of what's been happening over the last few years has been security stuff. And
Yeah,
security stuff inevitably is always shutting down doorways into the deeper APIs. And as a result, uh, features that used to not require root almost always start requiring it. And lots of stuff just stops being as easy
yeah. Actually,
or even possible.
that is a good point. I would like to see further security changes in Android 11 because there's still a lot that they could theoretically change. Like maybe they'll just shut out the whole accessibility API and just swing that hammer. Uh,
Yeah, pretty much.
I oh man, I wouldn't. I think if that happened, I might just stay off Slack for the whole day and not. I don't think I could handle the backlash from that.
Well, certainly no more reading comments for you.
Yeah, no more comments. I'm at like can I install an extension that just hides the comments on Android, please, like the ones for YouTube?
Exactly. So, on to happier news, at least crazier news. One of our favorite actors ever and superheroes and little animated strange puffy creatures, Ryan
Yes,
Reynolds, has now purchased some portion, if not all, I'm thinking some portion, of Mint Mobile. For those that don't know, Mint Mobile is a or sorry, it not is it an MVNO technically?
I get the order wrong half the time too. I can't help you here.
Okay.
It's a carrier that leases some other carrier's towers. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, okay, it is an MVNO.
Okay.
But it is built on top of T-Mobile, and basically it does the typical very low excuse me. It does the typical low cost, in this case, $15 a month plans, or starting at $15 a month for unlimited calls and texts, data, hotspot, the whole nine. Anyway, uh, yeah, out of the blue, Ryan Reynolds has announced that he is a customer, and B, partial owner of the company. So that's now a thing. Van Wilder owns a cell carrier.
And Deadpool. This is very on brand for Deadpool, though. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Deadpool movie has some mint references in there. But yeah, this is just funny. Like, it's I don't really think anything will come of this. Maybe we'll see some mint ads with Ryan Reynolds in them, like he does ads for his what's the other company he has?
His
I'm trying to
his
his
gin,
yeah. I see
which
ads for one.
is aviation gin, I believe.
Yeah,
Um, yep, that's the one.
yeah,
So you're saying might. This is exactly what I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping that like at this point, there aren't many companies I really actively want to see their ads. I now want to see Mint Mobile ads
yeah.
because I think that this is going to be everything we've enjoyed about John Laguerre for the last several years, except done by somebody who's good at it.
Yeah, I know. You say you enjoy it. I don't know if I'd go that far, but
Okay, I
yes,
mean
yes,
the last like 2 or 3 years, I
yeah,
really was not sold on John in any of his stunts or any of that stuff. But, back in the early days, like before Uncarrier
before he
became a
became
term.
obnoxious, yes.
Yeah, he was funny. He was entertaining. It was enjoyable having him on the scene because there was all the other stuffed shirts, and then there was him who was clearly like stuffed shirt adjacent, but he was willing to be a little crazy, a little weird. And but he took it a little far often. Now we have somebody who is not just experienced in taking it a little far, but is effing Van Wilder. He's Deadpool. This is a guy who tricked movie studios into giving him millions of dollars to make a personal project, and then it's like, you know what? Uh, it's also going to be one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Like, come on. This is a guy who can pull off some amazing ads.
I would like to see a Deadpool ad for Mint Mobile that drops lots of curse words and does some fourth wall shattering. That could be entertaining.
I'm thinking there will never be an official ad because for all the obvious uh intellectual property reasons. But I wouldn't be surprised if there ends up being some we'll call them pirate YouTube ads.
Like some
Because
what do they call it when they deep fakes? Can we deep fake some Mint Mobile ads into like Deadpool clips?
oh my god, that'd be
Call it a day.
great.
Oh
But
boy.
yeah, this is one of those things. Like it's a stupid piece of news technically. Like nobody really cares about celebrities owning things, but this actually promises to be one of the most entertaining things that we could look forward to for the next year. Like
Yeah.
there's just so much potential here. I love it.
Yes. Please get like I want to see Pikachu advertising a carrier. I really need that in my life. Let's make that happen.
I you know, I I wish I actually had a comment to really follow that up properly, but the problem is I feel like it has to be a Japanese carrier.
Uh, hmm, well, he doesn't. I mean, Pikachu kind of just makes noises, so I think it could work either way.
Oh, yeah, fair point.
Yeah. Okay. Just make it happen,
Yeah.
please, Ryan Reynolds. I know you're listening. Please make it happen.
Oh man. But yeah, this should be good. Anyway, oh, sorry, I was just reading a quote from Jules in the chat and
Cody, get it together.
yeah, whatever. Don't tell me to be professional. We're just going to make Jules edit this anyway.
Yeah.
But on the topic of this has been the Android Police podcast. All the topics we talked about today can be found at androidpolice.com/podcast. We're live 4 times a week at twitch.tv/androidpolice. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. if you have any of them, sorry.
If your brain is not completely void of information, if you are a
I
sentient being, please send us an email.
it's never good to laugh at your own joke, but when you come up with it like on the spot and realize it comes across better than it should have. Yeah. Jules, I'm just telling you, you have to edit all of this.
We're gonna start dropping I can't talk explicatives just to make him edit it.
Expletives.
Expletives. Thank you. I can't talk today at all.
Anyway,
Apparently, I think my mind's blank too. I can't send an email to podcast@androidpolice.com because I don't have any thoughts.
oh, well, I'll give the reread. That way Jules actually has something to edit in. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any, please send them to podcast@androidpolice.com. On Twitter, I'm Cody. Okay, and you're editing this too.
I'm sorry, that's probably on me switching it up.
Oh no, we by the way, anyone listening to this, just so you know, we've completely switched up like who is supposed to cover each of these sections, and we've moved stuff around so much. This has been a good random fun recording. Anyway, so to close out, you can find us on Twitter. I'm Cody_Tombs. Corbin is at Corbin Davenport, and our producer Jules Wang is at Point Jules, and our theme music is by Home. So we're going to have some fun guests coming up very soon. Chris Davies of Slash Gear is coming on Wednesday, and David Emile of Android Authority will be here on Friday. Until then, have a great week and take care.